Let's just say the bracha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan Torah. Praised are you, Jehovah, our Elohim, King of the universe, who gives us the Torah of truth and the good news of salvation to his people Israel, and to all the peoples through his Son, Yeshua, the Mashiach, our Master. Amen. Amen. Okay. Just so that you realize, it's a little daunting being up here.
Take a chance.
Sorry? I'll take a chair and sit down. Alright. Okay, there's a topic that has been on my heart, and I feel that the Father, he's put it on my heart specifically because he wants to share his heart with you. Okay? I'm just putting my phone on silence. Alright, and this topic is David, a man after God's heart. So, yes, it's from David. Davida. Alright, so there's a few things that I wanted to just share with you. I want to start off just going into a little bit of the background before David becomes king. And before I start writing and scribbling all over the board. It's before the time that he gets anointed. We have another king. And this king is King Saul. Alright, and King Saul, he tried. Okay? We know he tried. Alright? But how did he try? He tried to be a people pleaser.
Yeah.
And he was really a king of the people. Alright, and if you go back and you see what the people wanted, and God said to them, yes, I'll give that to you. I'm going to give you a king. And this king is going to be tall, dark, and handsome. That's right. He was very tall. And he was apparently very good looking. Alright? And as well at the same time, the people, they saw him and they revered him. They saw him and they looked up to him, literally. Okay? At the same time, he was a leader. Alright? But we understand his beginnings, they were good. And as he came into his kingship, he started to disobey the direct command from God. Okay? We know that he said about the one king that is the Amalekite king. He says of that king, he spared his life, he spared the best sheep, he spared the cattle, the best cattle, and then he killed the rest. Okay? And God said, what? That he wanted everything to be destroyed. He wanted the king included to be destroyed. So here's King Saul. He comes and he runs over to Samuel and he says, you know what, I've done everything that God wanted me to do. And Samuel says, but you know what, I hear some bleating and I hear some lowing. And he finds out as well that he's spared the king's life. And he says of Saul, he says to him, you know what, this kingship is going to be ripped away from you. And Saul, I think, because him being a people pleaser, alright, I don't know if anyone's ever been there, but I have, where you try and be a people pleaser, but you make a one big egg out of yourself, alright? He goes and he starts to plead. He says, oh, you know what, I've sinned against God, please, just make a plan. Unfortunately, God saw his heart. Okay? Outwardly, it looked right. It looked correct. but inwardly his heart was far from God. And there's a danger in that, because many, many times what Yeshua tells us, and he says that we must not be people pleasers. We must seek after God's heart. This leads me to a particular passage. It's found in 1 Samuel 13, verse 14. And it says this: But as it is, your kingship will not be established. He's talking to Saul. Adonai has sought for himself a man after his own heart. And Adonai has appointed him to be prince over his people, because you did not observe what Adonai ordered you to do. In another translation, it says very specifically, you did not guard the command of God. Okay? Do you see the danger in that? If we do not guard his command, and that is his full command, okay? If you see them in the garden, God said, don't eat of the fruit. You know? Eve, she could have said, oh, I only took a half a bite. Okay? That half a bite, it still was disobedience before God. She could have said, you know what, I only looked at the fruit. God said, don't even look at it. Don't look at it. So there's a clear distinction. Here God is telling us to guard his commands. He's telling us to keep them. And I'm going to go into that a little bit later, but I want you just to keep that in the back of your mind. Samuel goes out and he looks for a young boy. This boy must have been, what, 10, 11? He goes through to Jesse's sons, and all of his sons come before him. And the immediate thought is, oh, here's the first one. He's good looking, he's tall, okay? And God says, don't look at the appearance of him. Look at his heart. He looks at the next one. He looks at the next one. And he goes through all his sons, and he asks Jesse, he says, Jesse, don't you have another son? Yes, no, he's tending the sheep. Go and call him, because I'm not leaving until I see him. And here, little David comes before him. And David's like, eh? You know, especially boys at 11 years old or 10 years old. How would you think? You know, how would you feel? So you come before here, Samuel, and he says, all right, here's the oil. God has anointed you to be king. He starts pouring the oil over him. Now, David, being a little boy, he might not have known what that meant. Okay? He might have thought to himself, okay, what's this about? So in his heart, he's thinking all of these things. But God has chosen him and has appointed him at a specific time to become king. All right? We look at his life and we look at the way in which his heart is. And I'm going to go into some of the Psalms, because that's the first thing that I want you to see, the heart of this boy. Okay, I don't know his exact age when he was anointed as king, but man, if this is still a young boy, and his heart is after God, I want you to just turn to Psalm 1. Let's go to Psalm 1. Let's see how his heart is. It says here, how blessed are those who reject the advice of the wicked. Don't stand on the way of sinners, or sit where scoffers sit. Their delight is in Hashem's Torah, and on his Torah they meditate day and night. And I looked at that. Delight is in Hashem's Torah. This little boy, he didn't have a Torah scroll with him. So he must have gone to an area where he would have been taught. He must have been taught maybe by his dad and mom. So here he sits down with his dad and he starts to hear about Torah. And there's about 4 different ways that you could look at that. Delight in Torah. I think when I was younger and I started to hear a bunch of rules, I would have said, how can I delight in a bunch of rules? This is just hindering me from doing what I want. That's a fact. We think in that type of a way. And I've heard so many arguments when it comes to certain things like this, like, it's hard to do. You can't do it. Alright? If my mindset is thinking about rules and regulations, of course, I'm going to think of it in that way. So, people today, as soon as they hear a rule, oh, that's meant to be broken. And you look at how our society is. Oh, we've got a speed limit? Oh, let's push it a little bit more. We go with 20 kilometers and you land up in a chukki. You know what I mean? So, here, David delighted in these rules and regulations. Okay? Another way that we could look at it as in a self-righteous type of way. You know, I'm going to do everything. I'm going to keep Shabbat. I'm going to keep all the commandments of God. But what are you doing? You know, are you keeping Shabbat? Are you know, and you've got the self-righteous attitude, and you come across to people and, why aren't you keeping Shabbat? I keep Shabbat. You know what I mean? And it comes across with this a self-righteousness that we then lift ourselves up to, we elevating ourselves. We are missing the point altogether. We can look at it as an instruction from God that brings a smile to his face. And this is how we know that David saw it as an instruction from God, directly from God. It brought a smile to God's face. So he did it because it brought a smile to God's face. But I believe that he saw something deeper, much deeper. He saw this. It was God himself expressing himself. These are his very words. And he spoke his very words. And his words were penned down. He saw that. He never saw a rule and a regulation. He never saw self-righteousness. But what he saw was God himself. And he delighted in it. He delighted in everything that he saw and found in God. It says here, on his Torah they meditate day and night. Yes, we know that he was a shepherd boy. He must have been out in the field, and he would think about these words that would have been spoken to him day in and day out. He would be thinking about it. And as he thinks about it, must have been things like Abraham would come to mind, and he would start to dwell on Abraham, and dwell on the fact that Abraham, man, he was a friend of God. He looked at Abraham and he would think in terms of, yeah, this man, he sought after God. And as he sought after God, he would do things and walk. When God would say something, he would just do it because you know what? God meant everything to him. He was life to him. So you know what? Abraham, in his mind, determined, and David would have read these things and sought after that type of a relationship. I think about, man, there's Noah. he looked at Noah and he saw Noah was just obedient to God's instruction. You want me to build a boat? Well, you know what? I love you and I'm going to do it. You see, so God's heart, this is what we are expressing, what we are finding in Torah as you read it. I'm going to bring up one of the most, I found it quite beautiful. And I was told that it's one of the least commandments. But this one command, it says there, don't go to a bird and take the bird and its eggs. Well, I'm hungry, I want chicken wings. And I want some omelets. Side plate. God looks at that bird, his creation, he considers it. And he says, there's a promise to that one, that it might be well with you. Alright? And my wife said to me, yeah, because the bird was going to pick you to death. My children are going to beat you. So, the thing is, God's instruction is beautiful and it brings out who he is. It brings out that portion of God that we can see his justice, we can see his judgment, we can see his love and his compassion in Torah. And here he opens up his heart to us. Alright? Now David, he carries on here, he says, they are like trees planted by streams, they bear their fruit in season. Their leaves never wither. Everything they do succeeds. You look at Abraham. Was his life a success from the beginning? When he went over to Egypt with his wife and said, "You're my sister." Okay. All right. Was that? Do you see success there?
No.
God saw to it. God saw to it. When you look at other people, and I'm going to also bring up David's life, but other people in Torah, when you look at their lives, Moses, was his life a success from the word go? Even though God had a plan and a purpose for his life, was his life a success? Well, in man's terms, no. He was a prince. Yes, he's successful. Hey, he's a prince. Okay? He just got kicked out. Now he's a shepherd boy. Oh, oi favoi. Alright? So you see, God, his plans are not our plans. His ways are not our ways. His heart is not our heart. But if we are after his heart, if we pursue it with all our heart, all our mind, all our soul, we become a man after his heart, a woman after his heart. And that is key. If we look here, he says, they are like trees planted by streams. They bear their fruit in season. Their leaves never wither, and everything they do succeeds. The time comes where, yes, there's winter, there's spring, there's autumn. The leaves are not going to be green all year round. It's not going to be roses and dandelions and skipping and rabbits and bunnies, you name it. It's not going to always be like that. There's times where you will have plenty, where you will have none. There's times where you will feel that God is, are you there, Father? Are you there? Mm-hmm. Many, many times will it come across like that and come into your space, and you will think that everything is going up against you. God utilizes every single aspect of those situations to build you up to a place that he can use you and bring you into his fullness. David, he says here, not so the wicked, who are like chaff driven by the wind. And I'm sure he must have been thinking of Pharaoh's army. Here's Pharaoh's army. Wiped out, one shot. And many instances you would see, especially during that time, a wicked person rises up, he gets snuffed out. Even though the wicked might be prosperous, their life is but for a time. that might be their reward only now. But an eternal reward? What is their eternal reward? And here David, he sees that they are like chaff driven by the wind. For this reason the wicked won't stand up to the judgment, nor will sinners at the gathering of the righteous. For Adonai watches over the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked is doomed. So here, David, this little boy, he pens these types of songs. And you can see his heart in this. His heart is after God. He is seeking God. And this is who God is looking for as a king. And he gets anointed. Does he get puffed up and say, I'm the man, listen brothers, now you're my servants? No, he doesn't. In actual fact, he goes through a hangover time. Okay? Gets elevated to a position in Saul's kingdom, in his army. He defeats the Philistines many, many, many times over. And Saul, with his egotistical type of thinking, he hears the ladies singing, Saul's killed these thousands, and he must have been thinking, yes, I've killed my thousands. And then he hears, but David's killed his 10,000s. So you could imagine he's thinking in the back of his mind. He's like, David's killed his 10,000s. And the women are saying this. Okay? Being a people pleaser, the women are saying this. Alright? So he's thinking, what? I can't believe this. I'm going to keep my eye on this David figure, this David character. And this is the time when he actually starts his whole plotting in his mind. He's thinking and he's plotting in his mind to take out David. Oh, we'll give him 1,000 men, and he can go and get killed in one of the fights, one of the Philistine fights. But meanwhile, what does he do? Yeah, he goes and slaughters, and he just, why? Because he's upright before the King of Kings. He comes back and Saul's, he's like, I sent you out to go fight that huge army with your 1,000 men, and you've come back. Oy for God is definitely with this person there. So he starts to see that. And God removes his spirit from King Saul. Why? Because his heart is not after him. I don't know if you realize this, but God gave Saul a large amount of time to repent, to come back to him. But Saul, what did he do? His whole heart was not purposed to being one with the King of Kings. His heart did not beat after him. It beat after people. When Samuel comes up to him and says, you need to wait 7 days for me, and then I'm going to do a sacrifice. Well, he waits the 7 days, and there Samuel doesn't pitch up. Well, not at that time. And what did Saul see? The people were leaving me, so I made a sacrifice. That's what he sees. And initially, he's making up some stories to Samuel. But God sees right through that. He sees right through that. So here, David, he delights in Jehovah's Torah. He meditates on his Torah day and night. Another aspect that I wanted to also bring up is Psalm 23. When you look at Psalm 23. And I think this is relevant for his time, because he goes out to look after the sheep, then he comes back and he's playing his harp for King Saul. Then he goes out again, he's looking after the sheep, he comes back and he's playing his harp. And at this point here, it says there, Adonai is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green, grassy pastures. He leads me by quiet waters. He restores my inner person. He guides me in right paths for the sake of his own name. Even if I pass through death's dark ravines, I will fear no disaster, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff reassure me. This must have been going through his mind as he would come up against the lion first of all. And as a little boy, whether he is 12, 11, here a lion faces him. What little boy in their right mind would face up to a lion? I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty sure this little boy, he wasn't looking at the lion. He wasn't looking at that. Yes, he was scared, because when you take a step of faith, you are scared. Believe you me. When you want to take a step of faith, you're scared. You don't know the unknown. Man, this lion could take me out. But yeah, it's facing me. If I don't take that lion out, that lion is going to come back and take more of my dad's sheep. This is our livelihood. So you could think about the way in which he must have been feeling. But at the same time, it says, your rod and your staff reassure me. I fear no disaster. He looks at that lion and he says, Ish, I'm scared, but let me pick up my first stone. And he starts winding around. Smacks the lion. But we know the lion's got a thick skin, eh? He must have turned around, looked at him. He must have picked up another stone, slung it at him. Then the lion would have been facing him, dead on. And by this time, David's heartbeat must have been racing. His feelings of anxiety could have been there, but who does he trust in? And what does he see? The big foot of God just above the lion. He runs to that lion and he takes him out. What little boy in their right mind would do something like that? One that fears God, one that loves him, one that says in his heart, God is my deliverer. Whom shall I fear? He faced the lion, and a little bit bigger, the bear. So then, Goliath comes onto the scene. He's just had all of these experiences, and now he sees Goliath in the distance. There's Goliath. He stands up and he says, I defy the armies of Israel. And David's hair just goes up. His shackles goes up. And this little boy, I think he was about 12 years old now, he says, what? This pipsqueak. He looks at him and he most probably points his finger and he says, why are the children of Israel running away? This guy's just defied God's army. And his heart must have been pent up in rage and anger towards this giant. How dare he come here and say things about God's army and about my king? I'm not talking about King Saul. How dare he come here and do that? And then he just makes a scene. Eliab's like, his brother, he says, man, just go back and you take your sheep, you know. You're going to get yourself into trouble. But here David is so angry. He's so vehement in his heart. He turns, he looks at this giant and he says, you are nothing. He goes back to King Saul, and Saul eventually says, all right, okay, we'll let you go. I mean, what a man. I'm saying about King Saul, he's to let a little boy go up in front of a giant. But here, David runs out, and we know the story. He's got his sling. He picks up five stones. I've heard that it was for his 4 other brothers, so he had that much confidence. But I want to suggest to you, those 5 stones are a symbol of Torah. His confidence was not in his ability. His confidence was not in what man could do, but in his King, in God himself. Picked up those 5 stones, he takes the 1 stone, and he says to Goliath, he says, you know what? You pipsqueak. You've defied the armies of the living God. I'm going to feed your flesh to the birds. And I'm going to take your head off. You could imagine what was going through Goliath's mind. What? Is that the best Israel can give me? This little pipsqueak, you know? And he just hears David's words and he's enraged, and now he starts to run towards David. And David looks at him and he's filled with anger. You know, and I'm saying it's a righteous anger. He's filled with that and he starts to run. He puts the first stone in. And we know the story how it goes. The stone goes out. And the last thing that was on Goliath's mind was the stone. He falls down, and Goliath takes, David goes and takes his sword and chops the head off Goliath. That little boy, God had anointed as king. Why? Because he said, he's after my heart. This heart that is, I look at Torah and I see the heart of Hashem. I don't see rules and regulations. I don't see anything as in self-righteousness coming out. I see, you know what, God? I want my heart to beat after your heart. David had that heart. His heart, it yearned after God. We sang that song, as the deer pants for the water, so my soul pants after you. That was David's heart. His soul panted after God. Everything in him. He just wanted his king. He wanted him. He was not satisfied with just having a soul relationship. He was not satisfied with having a pleasing of men. He loved God with everything in him. So when we look at David's life, we see this difference, this vast difference between Saul and David. Yes, we know how David had fallen. And many, many times David fell. I want to suggest to you, go and look at the way in which he actually worked. It sounded like he was a brute of a man. You killed King Saul. Kill him. That's it. And a young guy comes up and kills the guy that says that he killed King Saul. Why? Saul was God's anointed. And in David's mind, you don't touch him. So, when you look at the other portions, Saul's son gets killed, was murdered. And here, the 2 men go straight through the night just to bring his head to King David. And David is angry. This is murder. Kill him. Both those men died that day. So people knew his heart was not after the people. I mean, he could have said, sure, that guy was a thorn in my flesh, man. Thank you so much. Let's reward you. But he doesn't. His heart is to do what is right. And the people, they start to see this. I've got some notes here with rules. Let's say, for instance, your child says to you, I want you to go and clean the car. Well, you say to your child, say. A little bit different. You say to your child, I want you to go clean the car. Your child looks at you, oh, not again. You know what I mean? And says, drags their hands. You know, oh, here's the bucket, grabs the bucket, the soap. It's not a delight. How many times have we treated God like this? Where we look at Him and we say, oh, man, it's Shabbat again. Or we look at Him and we say, do I have to do that? Please? Well, I don't really want to do that right now. Or when we are wanting to sin, God, don't look at what I'm going to do right now. And we try and hide it. Why? Because it's a rule and regulation in our hearts and in our minds. It's there because we want, we want to break it. That's what is happening in our hearts and our minds. We could look at it in a different light, and I've heard all of these as well. Daddy, I just cleaned the car. You did not clean the car, so you know what? I deserve something in return. And it comes across very, very self-righteous. This is a way in which we work as well. This is normal. We are children, guys. Where we do some things and our hearts rise up in such, this self-righteousness comes out, and we look at everyone else. Well, you this type of a person, you that type of a person. We even hear it in the words of Yeshua. He says, there was a Pharisee busy praying. Thank you that I'm not like that person. I give to the poor. I keep Shabbat. You know what? In actual fact, I keep pretty much everything. Thank you, I'm not like that. And God says that of that man, that he was praying to himself. Why? Because his eye was so big. Everyone else was so small around him. He had exalted himself to a place of, I am. Okay? Self-righteousness gets you to that place. And God says, He never heard it. So He never listened to that prayer. Like here was a lady that was beating the chest in repentance. God, forgive me, I'm a sinner. Forgive me. And Yeshua says of that person, she went away justified. You see the heart. The heart is key here. When I look at bringing a smile to Daddy's face, and I think about that. And sometimes when you give an instruction to your children, and your children just do it with everything in them, they give their very, very best. Why? Because it brings a smile to your face. David, his heart was to do that. When I look at the heart of Hashem, I can yodea Him, I can know Him, I can seek Him out. And when I know Him, what comes up in your heart? A love for Him. And Yeshua put it in this type of a way. If you love me, keep my commandments. I want to reword that. If you love me, guard my instruction. I want to reword it again. If you love me, guard my heart. Because it's God's heart that is beating here. if you love him, guard his commandments. And I say, his heart. We are called the bride of Christ, are we not? Where was the woman taken out of? The chest. The rib. Where's the heart?
In the rib cage.
In the rib cage. So here, the woman completes the man and protects what? His heart. So Yeshua stated to us, if you love me, guard my heart. Love me enough to guard my heart. I don't think we look at it enough in that type of a light. Here we see a little boy who found that to be precious. And everything that he did, even when he sinned, he turns around and he says, create in me a clean heart, O God, renew a right spirit within me. Cast me not away from your presence, and take not your spirit from me. Restore unto me the joy of my salvation. Do you see his heart? Do you see how he was yearning after God? He's crying out, God, I've hurt you. I've exposed your heart. I don't want to do that. Please create in me a clean heart. Because I don't want to go there. I don't want to expose your heart. I love you. David's passion and his love for God drove him to be a very, very, very good king.
I don't want to disturb you. I wish this was not here. But I want to testify to say, even in Luke, when can I use the words that come first in my mouth?
Go for it.
Without offending anybody. When Christ was approaching a certain village and was seeing that procession of a funeral, and there were all categories of people there coming for that burial in Luke 7, they say everybody was crying so bitterly. And he was just looking at them until he saw the woman whose only son had died and it was his funeral, crying. And it says it moved his heart so much that he approached and touched whatever they were going to bury him with. I just forgot the term of the coffins they were using then. They were not using caskets. And then he said, son, wake up. And that guy started talking. And he handed him over to the mother. But it goes on to say, God respects women so much that any man who makes the women to suffer, who doesn't obey and respect his wife, he rejects even his prayers. Yes, and it says, you know, when women cry and they pray to God, I'm actually trembling when I hear that. They say he answers immediately. You know, and it goes on, it talks about the faith of a guy who was saying who wanted Christ to come and raise his son. And to come and raise somebody who had died in his house. And was saying, after people said they were going to call him and then he could come into his house, and he said, I'm not even worthy. I don't worth that because I'm also in charge of others. And therefore, I can just ask you to just say the word. I know, because I don't think I qualify for you to come and touch base in my house. Those kinds of things, you know, they actually put you in a position where you really are scared to do anything evil against the Lord. If you spend your life looking at his face like you see it just in the sky here. You know whatever you're going to do wrong, it's going to hurt you because you do it knowingly that God lives in you and you can hear His word, going up louder and louder every day.
Yeah.
It scares so much. Let me not disturb you, but I could share with you
Thank you.
some more other verses. That is why once God starts to touch your heart, it's like you are fearing Him more than anything else. But, another thing which is very scary about accepting Christ as your Savior, the person who died for you, and you understand He's God at the same time. You just get irritated even when they are interviewing some people, or you hear messages on the talk shows, and people say, right now there's such a problem with religion and all the ministers that are claiming to be helping people and they're doing wrong things. And the one guy just commented and said, I know there's Christ, I believe He was there, but I know there's God, but I don't believe in Christ. I know He was there, but, we are not Christians. I was shocked. I was driving to Pretoria and the guy was confessing like that over the radio 702 when they were talking about these churches where they make people eat rats and all those things. And this guy was saying, I believe in ancestors, and we talk to them and they take the message to God and then we get the answers. We sometimes think the Bible is for everybody and we hear the word, all of us, but so many people are still lost. And when you were talking about self-righteousness, Kathy once sent us the audio that said, Christ is coming and He's coming very soon. And I got so scared and I was just WhatsApping most of the people on my WhatsApp saying, Christ is coming, we better stand up. And the one pastor just responded immediately and said to me, how sure are you that you are going? And I responded immediately. I said, I'm sure I'm going. If He comes now, He's going to find me ready. And then he texts back and said, how do you know this? I said, I'm baptized in the River Jordan. I do what Christ said we must do when He left because I observed Shabbat. And I listed all the things that I thought I was doing. Now as you were just talking to us and saying other people are so self-righteous, I wanted to raise my hand. I said, I was once so self-righteous. I'm even afraid of that. I'm scared that I said all those words. And they were just coming like this, like they were recorded. Guys, we are on the right track when we spend time with God. I know I'll take time to get used to calling Him the Jewish way, but I think I'm on the beat. And I hear this message loudly and clearly in my heart. And I believe now that for you to be used by God, it's not through your intelligence. And for you to understand the Bible does not depend on how intelligent you are.
That's right.
I'm a true example of that. I did biblical studies as one of my courses in one of my degrees. And I was getting distinctions. But you know what, I was just paging it from cover to cover because I wanted that certificate so much. And believe you me, I'm only understanding it now in context. And it scares me how much time I've wasted. And God wanted to use me, and I always said, I can't.
That's what Torah does. Torah gets us to know Him.
Yes,
I've
definitely.
been a Christian for many years, and only once I started to read through Torah that I understand what He wants, what He loves, what He hates. And that's what David, he understood Torah.
Yes. His heart was just after that love relationship with his God, with his King. That's all he wanted. That's all he wanted. If we look at, even when David talks about within Psalm 1, he speaks about the righteous and he talks about the wicked. I looked up the Hebrew on the wicked, it's called Rasha. So it goes like this: Resh being the head, Shin being the tooth or destruction, and Ayin being the experience. So the person that is wicked, he is a person that experiences destruction, or he gives it out. He's the one that actually is giving out destruction. That's his experience. And if we think of those things, we think of the times where I look at my life where I was on a road of destruction, where everything around me was just being, and I wouldn't care two hoots about the people around me, where it would be more on case of, if you come past me or what have you, you're going to meet my wrath or something stupid to that degree. So in my own mind, I was in that place of self-righteousness as well. I was in the place of, I'm good enough and God can accept me, type thing. And it's wicked in God's eyes. If I'm thinking in terms of the way that I was, as opposed to living a tzaddik life. I've heard some rabbis talk about tzaddik, talk about living a righteous life, and they actually say and it sounds quite funny, it's to control the monkey. So you've got a wild nature, and it's to actually bring that into subjection. So, but I looked at it a little bit deeper, and I found this, that if I am allowing God to take His word and practically seek His word out. It starts off with the tzadi, which is a fishhook in Paleo-Hebrew. And I found it quite interesting because the fishhook, you can seek, throw that into the sea and you can seek out a fish. But I want to suggest to you is God sought after us. If you look at Yeshua, he was the son of David. And this is very beautiful. I was reminded just the other night. When it comes to Torah, a Torah scroll is prepared. How do we prepare it? We take lambskin and we pen Torah onto lambskin. We impale that lambskin onto 2 pieces of wood. We scroll it up and we put a purple robe around that lambskin, that Torah scroll. We place an ephod, which the high priest wore, and a crown on it. This is the traditional way of preparing the Torah. God wants you to see something beautiful. Yeshua, the living Torah, God exposed his heart. He said, you know what? I'm going to be impaled on 2 pieces of wood. Why? Because I am passionate. I'm passionately in love with you. That to me, it blows my mind. And for me not to go after his heart, for me not to understand and not to want him, and to be like a King Saul and to be a man-seeker, it's not worth it. But when I find him, I sell everything that I am and have to pursue after him, to find him, to love him, and to place everything that I am into him. This was the crux of who David was. And if I make that comparison between Saul and David, man, who had the full life? David. Yet God, and as a result, God blessed him anyway. We understand that his sons went the route that they went, or certain sons. We understand this. Solomon, at the end of the day, he says, you know what? Seeking after God, that is life. All these other things, and we know that he had 400 porcupines and we know how many wives he had. That led him astray. But he turns around and he says, you know what, I want God. That's what he turned around in Ecclesiastes, he says that. I don't know if he made it. We don't know. His sons, they didn't serve God. But at the end of the day, that's the conclusion that he comes to. This life is worth it only if you give up your all to our King. David, he did that. As that little boy faced the giant, he did that. As he became king, and yes, there were many things that he went through. He even goes to one of the kings in the Philistine land, and he gets to stay in Ziklag, which is the place that he stayed. There came a time when he went to go fight. Came back and there's his wife's gone. His children are gone. The people that were following him, all their wives are gone, their children are gone, their sheep are gone, everything is burned to the ground. And they want to stone David. What does David do? He finds his strength in Hashem. He finds his strength in our King. And he turns around and he says to them, all right, this is what we're going to do. While they're busy wanting to stone him, he calls out the priest that was there with him. He comes out and he says, he has the garment, the stones, and he looks and he asks, and he inquires of God, and God tells him, you need to go and take these monkeys out. Now these guys, they were strong. It was an army that had just taken out, I think it was 3 kings, if I remember right. Here, David goes out with he actually had 400 men with him. 200 of them stayed behind at one of the valleys. Goes out with these 400 men, and he takes these guys out. Kills every single one of them apart from 200 who escaped on horse. I think it was 200 or 400, either or. But the point is this, God gave him a victory. He gave him that victory. Why? He found his all in the King of Kings. What would Saul have done in that situation? The people want to stone me. Hey, you could imagine. I know exactly where Saul would have been. He would have been in the bathroom. Okay? He wouldn't have been able to handle that. Why? Because his strength was not in God. His strength was in his ability. At the end of the day, when we look to our King, when we seek him out, when we seek out Torah, is our heart in it? Or is it not? Are we looking for him? Are we looking for gratification in making me feel good? Am I looking to be a people pleaser? Or am I looking to be a God pleaser? Now I want to conclude with that. It's, I think, when we study him and David, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I find courage in it, because many times when I'm faced with a circumstance where you just don't know what to do, if your strength is not found in God, you are miserable. I've looked at people which are multimillionaires. What do? They will go and they will place emphasis on going and thinking positive, doing meditation, going into seeking out, all of these different things. They will seek this out. They will gain all their input from the universe, as it were, is what they say. The crux is this: the God that we seek after, He made the universe. He holds that in His hand. And yet He exposed His heart so that we might be free, so that we might look at Him and just say, "You're beautiful." Look at Him and just say, "I love you." Look at His heart beating. "You are amazing." David, he did that. And my question to you is, are we as a people going to seek Him out in this type of fashion and way? When Torah is spoken, let our hearts beat and get excited, because this is our King we are talking about. Amen.
Amen. Sorry, can I just give you the response of Yeshua to the guy? He said, "Can you just say a word?" And then he knows it will be done.
Okay.
Yeshua said to the people that he was talking to say, "I've never even seen that kind of faith, not even amongst the Israelites in Israel."
Yes.
So, thank you. You just put it together so nicely. Thank you very much.
I'm just going to ask you to close. Just before we close, we have a couple of announcements, and then so I want